a few reasons why you may not have achieved your goals just yet. And it was part 1 to a 2-part series. So today I'm going to be talking about some other reasons. So make sure you go back and check in with my last week's episode if you haven't already. So I spoke about a few things last week that may have hit home. I got a lot of feedback from people being like, whoa, that was like a big wake up call. That was a huge realization. Thank you. And I hope I wasn't too harsh on you, because my goal for last week's soul session was to just help you realize or see something that you haven't seen yourself yet. And sometimes we need that third party person to validate that we are doing something that's not serving us. So today I'm going to be talking about, I've got 5 things here. Let's see if I get through the 5 of them. I want to make this really short and quick so it's easy for you to listen to. So continuing on, one of the other reasons why you haven't yet achieved what you've set yourself out to achieve is because you have a habit of relying on other people to get you there. Now, this is a really big one. So depending on if you're going for a business goal or a career goal, or maybe like a health goal or whatever it is, we have this tendency to point at other people and look like in our exterior environment to say, I need this to happen for me to achieve that goal, or I need that person to do that to achieve this goal, or I will be able to achieve this goal when. And it's such a bad habit to get into, to even think and be in that headspace, right? So when you're relying on others or exterior things to help you achieve something, you are 100% not taking responsibility for the goal that you have set. So you might be saying, oh, but Shani, I need my team members to have a certain amount of sales for me to achieve my goal. Or Shani, that doesn't make sense for me because I need a certain amount of people to be doing X amount of things, or I need a PT to train me and I don't have the money for that yet, or whatever it might be. You might still think, no, but I actually do need something else to happen before I achieve that goal. So what I wanted to say is, what if you stop making it about what has to happen exterior to you, what's out of your control, and what if you just went within? So one of my favorite questions to ask myself is, well, how can I? So I'll tell you guys like a little bit of a secret, which isn't too much of a secret, because if you work with me, you know this. I freaking hate excuses. I hate excuses, and everybody who I mentor, they know, don't go to Shani with excuses, because I'm just going to turn around and be like, okay, well, what's the solution? Because I'm not sitting here in excuse town. We are going to solution town. And another question is, and this lights up the frontal lobe of your brain every time you ask this question, well, how can I then? So let's talk generally. Let's just say, I'm trying to look in the chat here to see if anyone's like, this is me. If this is you, or if you have, just had a light bulb moment going, oh my gosh, I am actually relying on someone else for me to achieve a goal, let me know in the chat, because I want to make this personalized for you. So see if I can help anyone on the line with me right now. But if you go within and say, well, how can I? And rather than say, Chloe, I love excuse town. Well, I love the saying excuse town. If you say to yourself, okay, well then, if I am saying to myself that I need a personal trainer to keep me accountable to reach my health goals, well then that's putting blame on something in my exterior environment. How do I go within? So Yaz has said, yes, this is me. Okay, tell me a little bit in the comment section, Yaz, about what's going on for you, and I'll see if I can help you out. But instead, how about you ask yourself the question, well, if I can't get a PT right now because my funds won't let me, or my budget doesn't let me, how can I create some type of accountability? And this is why I love working with solution-based thinkers, because this is where we start to brainstorm. Well, okay, what is it about the PT that you need or want? Well, I want the accountability. I want to be responsible, to go somewhere at a certain time so I show up. I want someone to push me. So if those are some of the traits and characteristics that you love in the thought of that exterior thing, have a think about how can you create that for you internally. So if I was working with like a client, for example, who's saying I need a PT to get healthy, well, how about we create an accountability group with friends, like a circle of people who are on the same health journey as you instead? Do you know anyone who would do like a little challenge with you that's not going to cost you money? What if you lock in the calendar with a girlfriend, Thursday mornings, every morning, let's go for a 1 hour walk together and we'll catch up and then we'll go and have a juice after and just make it a thing, right? So that's one of the things that I've done. I go for a walk every Thursday morning with my girlfriend Kate, and I know that if I cancel on her, it's kind of like a dog move, right? Unless it's raining, and actually last week we walked in the rain because we're both doing the 75 hard, but that helps me be accountable to someone and it helps me show up. So in business sense, again, if you're relying on other people to get you to that goal, and I get some of you guys are in network marketing, some of you guys are in sales, some of you guys are just in startup, you're starting to build a business and you're kind of probably thinking, well, I need an assistant to help me because I've got too much on my plate. Or if you're in network marketing, you're probably like, oh, I need to bring on, a certain amount of people to get to my next goal. Okay, I want you to stop that thinking, because what you're doing there right now is you are putting the responsibility on someone else when it has actually everything to do with yourself. So what can you control? What is it that you can do so that you achieve that next goal? Well, what you can control is the action that you do. So this was a really big one for me last year, where I was getting really frustrated. I had a really big goal in mind and I didn't reach it last year. And so I was like, okay, well, instead of me looking at everybody else and being like, everybody's got to do more, I thought, well, what can I do more? How can I show up better? So I did things like I got a coach, I did the 75 hard challenge, I started doing soul sessions, I started showing up in a different way. I started to take responsibility for my goals. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go and get 20 new clients right now because I know that's something I can control. And then I went and got 20 new clients because that's something that I could do. So I want you guys to stop making everybody else's action the reason why, quote unquote, you haven't achieved your goal, and go within. So I'm just going to go to the chat because someone's written something to me here and I want to help. Okay, so I feel like I need outside accountability to push me to move my ass. I don't know why. Even self-care, I do things for others and not for me. So this is a really awesome share. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing with me. So this is the thing, right? If I have an incredible team of successful leaders, and if I look at the handful of like next level leaders that I have in my team, there's one thing about them, and they're self-motivated. One thing I've noticed though, we're not born self-motivated. So self-motivation and the willingness and the desire to get shit done without having anyone have to pull you through the mud to get you there is an incredible skill and quality and trait. And to be truthful, I've never seen anyone become successful who relies on someone else to push them to do something. And I hope that doesn't offend you, but this is the best thing about this. You can actually change and be a self-motivated person. I've seen people be unmotivated, flat, someone who's not really invested in their success as much as others. And then I've seen them flip almost like overnight. A light bulb went on, like the switch went on for them, and they're all of a sudden become self-motivated. And truthfully, I'm going to say like 30% of people who I see as super successful in my team were once upon a time not as skilled or not as self-motivated, but they turned into that. So this is okay. I'm reconnected. Okay, so I don't know where that cut me off, but this means that you can become self-motivated. And this actually goes back to one of the things that I said last week in last week's session. you have to know what your why is. You need to be hungry enough to want it or need it. So there needs to be kind of like enough pain there for you to be like, okay, well, I'm kind of sick of living like this. Like, I don't want to live like this anymore. And then you need to ask yourself, well, why don't I want to live like this anymore? And what's going to happen if in 12 months from now, I'm still needing people to push me and move my ass? Same with like the whole self-care thing. People who don't put their self-care as a priority, that has nothing to do with anything other than a lack of self-worth. And that's all it is. It's because you don't put value on your worth. You haven't put your self-worth up here enough to be like, well, no, I actually need to fill my cup up first before everybody else's cup. I need to do my morning routine first. I need to go to bed early. I need to be drinking enough water every day. I need to be eating healthy. I need to exercise. I need to give to myself on the weekend. I need to go offline and give myself offline time. I need to have that self-care day on a Sunday. Like, the only reason why people don't do that is because they don't see themselves as worthy enough for it. So how do you fix that? You go and do the work. You get the coach. You do the courses, you do the personal development, you read the books, you listen to the podcasts, but most importantly, you surround yourself with people who do have high self-worth. So for me, I never, ever, ever used to put my self-care first. I get to the end of the day and I'd be like, okay, I really need to exercise because I have been sitting here all day. And then I'd be like, oh, I've just got too much to do. I'm just going to put my work before my happiness. And that happened for a really long time. And then it wasn't until I started surrounding myself with people who were like, I'm not doing emails at 10 p.m. at night. Screw that. Like, my health and my happiness is way more important. And I saw a really awesome correlation. People who had really high self-worth had really high net worth. And then when I realized that net worth and self-worth are directly related to one another, meaning if you have a low self-worth, you have a low net worth. If you have a high self-worth, you have a high net worth. They're fully related to each other, guys. So what that's saying is, if you want to be successful in business, if you want to grow your customer base, if you want to grow your revenue, if you want to have bigger paychecks, your self-worth is pivotal to that happening, which means self-care has to happen. Now, that doesn't mean you drink pina coladas every day by the pool and do nothing. It means that you have a strategic balance happening between your work and your self-care. And so again, coming back to this number one thing that I'm talking about, which is you have a habit of relying on others for you to create your success. That the way that this correlates is you have to stop saying to yourself, well, when I make this much money, then I'll start looking after myself. Or when I have this many clients, then I will take Sundays off. Or when I have this much coming through my business, then I'll start doing all the self-care activities. No, just like act as your next level self now. I think that's really important. And the really cool thing that I noticed in my business personally, when I started putting myself first, like, I put myself first before everyone and anyone. And that is not a selfish act. That is me I have so much high self-worth of myself that I just wouldn't ever go against that. I just wouldn't ever compromise my self-care because I know it's correlated to my success, right? So I hope that helps. I have a goal and paid for a course fully to study, but I have not even studied or even looked at the course to study. Okay, so this comes down to, Yaz, what I spoke about last week. Make sure you watch part 1 if you haven't. You haven't got a system where you're prioritizing your projects. I spoke about time management last week, so definitely check that out, because the problem there isn't that you are lacking in a skill of anything. It's just you haven't time blocked, or you haven't properly prioritized your projects. So I spoke about that really in depth last week, so make sure you check that out. It's like I'm waiting for someone to help me, or a phone call from a coach to show me where to start. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And again, Yaz, like, what I was saying before, what I know to be true is the most successful people that I see and who I'm surrounded by are self-motivated. So maybe reflect on, well, how can I be more self-motivated? How can I have that thing in me that all these successful people have? What do they do? And maybe you can study some successful people. Ask them questions like, how do you get so much done when you've got so much to do? Like, what are your tricks? I want to emulate you. I want to be like you. Or you inspire me. Like, how do I start to figure it out? Because that's definitely what I did. I started to study people who I looked at and thought, I'm going to be like them one day. I'm going to be that organized. I'm going to be that onto it. I'm going to be that turned on about my business and so organized and so clear with my time management that I'm just going to get so much done. I'm going to run laps around people because that's how organized I'm going to be. So I started to study them. I'd ask really great questions. I'd ask, can I take a peek at how you do this? I fought with my mentors, for example, and then I just started to put it into action. So Yaz, I just want you to go and reflect on that and maybe have a look at what are different things that you can do and put in place to make sure that you're self-motivated. I don't know anyone who's successful in my circle who's not self-motivated. I know a lot of people who aren't self-motivated and they're scratching their head wondering why they haven't progressed. And that's the reason why. So you've got to find that, turn that switch on for you. How can I go all in and throw everything I've got at it and be self-motivated and not rely on anybody else to make my dreams come true? Okay, the next one is you have a habit of blaming others for your mistakes. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things to talk about. There's this line, let's just pretend there's this line right here, and above it is 100% responsibility, and below the line is shame, blame, and justify. So people who shame others for things not going right or mistakes happening, or they justify why it happened. Oh, the reason why that happened is because this, or they try and make excuses, or they try and make up for what they did by blaming someone else. Or something happens in your business or in your life or in your career or whatever, and you don't take responsibility for it. One of my favorite things to do is to fully reflect and go, well, how can I take responsibility for that? So, if someone calls me out on something, or if someone gives me constructive feedback, or someone tells me Shani, that wasn't right, you should have done it like this, or someone gives me, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up now, a negative review, instead of being oh, that person's just grumpy, or oh, that person just has no idea what it's like to run a business my size, or whatever your instant knee-jerk reaction, justification, blame and shame is. Rather than doing that, why don't we go within instead and go, well, how can I take responsibility for that? What is true about what that person is saying? Or if there's been a mistake, how could I have prevented that from happening? What can I do in the future so that doesn't happen anymore? So again, I talk to a lot of people who are blaming exterior things in their environment for the reason why they haven't achieved their goal yet. So you're not a good enough mentor, or you don't check in enough with me, or my family doesn't support me, or my friends keep making fun of me and they judge me, or I'm not skilled because there's not enough training on that thing. Well, they're the people who are always going to be stuck right there. They're not going to progress through to the next level, right? So instead of pointing the finger at other things or other people, how can you ask yourself, okay, how can I take full 100% responsibility for this? So I want to tell you a story about how this happened to me last year. And so I got a letter from someone, and it was a really long letter about all the things that I've done wrong. Now, at first when I read this letter, I was just I want to cry. This is horrible. and it was a letter from them about, you know, just how they wanted to see things differently and what they think I could have done better. And truthfully, it felt like a personal attack. I'm not going to lie. And I probably cried about it for about 2 days. And, you know, for that 2 days, I was stuck in this, like, they just have no idea what it's like. Like, they're just so entitled. Like, they this and they're that. And how dare they? Like, don't they know how busy I am? And blah, 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 blah. And then it wasn't until I remembered this rule, and like, this is my own rule, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm so triggered by this. I have to look at why I'm so upset about this letter. So I reread the letter, even though it was really painful, and I just highlighted things that I was like, okay, how can I take responsibility for this? How can I be better here? How can I serve more? How can I never make that mistake again? And what actually came from that letter was this incredible evolution of Shani. Like, oh my God, I just became a better leader. I became a better friend. I became a better business owner, because all of a sudden I was just like, okay, what's true about that? I think this is true about that, and this is what I can put in action so that that never happens again. So where has that happened in your life, where you have pointed at other people and been really upset about what they've said, or maybe you've made a mistake and instead of taking responsibility for it, you were like, oh, that happened because that person did this. How can you take responsibility? I can tell you so much magic comes from playing above the line. So when you play up here and you take 100% responsibility, magic happens. When you hang out down here where you shame, blame, and justify, well, you kind of just stay where you're at all the time. Okay, next one. This is a good one. The reason you haven't achieved the goal that you've set or where you want to go in life is because potentially you quit at the first sign of defeat. Give me a little love heart and give me some love, or let me know in the chat if you've done that. You're like, oh, every time it gets hard, I definitely want to quit, or I have quit in the past. Let me know in the chat. And you know what? Like I said last week, this isn't to make you feel any less. It's just to help you realize, ooh, yeah, that's actually me. And I'm providing the solution for you so you can turn that around, okay? Because everything that I'm sharing with you today and everything that I shared last week has a solution to it, which is amazing, right? This isn't just about like, you failed because of this reason. It's like, no, this is how you can fix it. Okay, so you've quit at the first sign of defeat. Let me tell you something about defeat. I think people look at successful people and they compare themselves and say, oh, well, they're lucky because of X, Y, Z. Or they've achieved it because they don't have it as hard, or they don't have it as tough, or they've never had to experience X. All excuses are equal, which means the reason why you have excuses doesn't matter how bad they are. There's no scale of like, oh yeah, like that's a bad one. Like you haven't achieved that yet because, oh yeah, I understand. And then there's like, oh, it's an even worse one. Like, yeah, that's a really bad reason why you haven't achieved your goal. Everything is equal. So I don't care if your internet doesn't work, or you don't have a computer, or whatever your excuse is. You have people who don't support you, or maybe, what are other excuses I've heard? Literally, I've heard I'm 5.5 years of business and I've heard that many excuses. Whatever your excuse is, they're all equal to everyone else's. There's no like scale of how bad your excuse is, right? So all excuses are equal. The one thing I know about successful people is that the moment defeat happens, they keep going. They pick themselves up, they dust themselves off. It's no thing. It's really no thing. Maybe they take a day to get over it, but it's no thing. So the difference between someone who is winning and someone who is not winning is literally their ability to keep going when it's hard. And so people look at successful people and go, well, I can never be like that. Or she's had it really easy, or he's got contacts, or he's got whatever. But what you don't see is all the hard work that they've done behind the scenes, all of the failure, the judgment, the criticism, the mistakes, and that they've just gracefully picked themselves back off the floor and kept going rather than allowing defeat to be the reason why they quit. So anything that's worth having comes with a little bit of resistance. And what I mean by that is it's going to be hard. Anytime you want to create something magical in your life, whether you want to create more, cultivate more abundance, be more successful, help more people, whatever it is, it's always going to come with hard work. And there's always going to be challenges, or what I call universal assignments. So the universe is always going to be like, okay, you've just named and declared that you want this thing over here. I'm going to test you. I'm going to see how bad you want this. And then boom, you get this like speed bump in the way, or you get like a spanner that gets thrown into the mix. And all of a sudden, there's two types of people when this happens. There's the ones that go, oh, this is too hard. Nah, I'm out. I'm tapping out. Sorry, this is too hard. I didn't expect that to happen. And then the other type of person will, get hurt, feel like they'll feel like, this is really tough and I don't want to do it, but they keep doing it. And again, the people that I'm surrounded by who are super successful, the times that I've seen them keep going, when it's like, I can't believe you're continuing. Like, that's tough. Like, oh my God. That is why they're there and others are not. So what I want to say here is, the moment you want to quit, take that as your Independence Day. So there have been several times where I've gone, oh my gosh, it would just be so much easier if I just quit right now, because this is just getting too hard. And then I always remember, but the most successful people keep going. They persist. They persist and they persist and they persist, and nothing gets in their way. So, how many times have you given up on yourself? And as hard as it could have been, how many times did you decide to not pick yourself back up and keep going and maybe give it away? So a perfect story about this is the Live Hard Phase 1 program that I'm doing right now. I've got 3 days to go, you guys. I finish on Wednesday. So in case you haven't been following my journey, I did the 75 hard last year. It was freaking hard. The last 14 days were excruciating, but I did it. I completed it. I didn't fail. I did it all in one 75-day hit. And then at the end of that challenge, I was like, I'm never doing that again. That was so hard. And then this year, my husband, Maddie, and I were like, let's do the next phase. And I'm like, all of a sudden, I forgot all the pain that happened last year. Now I'm remembering why I said I never wanted to do it again. But so the next phase is a 30-day phase, and you do everything again, and you've just got to add some extra things, right? So on day 18 of phase 1, I failed. I accidentally broke one of my rules. So I had to start again. So today is day 28. But add another 18 days onto that, because I did this for 18 days before where I am right now. So last week, I had a really bad week. Everything went wrong. I was emotional as well on top of that. So everything was like exaggerated for me. And so last week I wanted to quit. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Maddie finished on day 30, which felt like ages ago. And so I've been doing it all by myself, and I was just like, I want to quit. Like, this is just so hard. I got to one night, it was 10 p.m. and I said to Matt, I think I'm just going to quit. Like, it's just, I've still got to drink 3 liters of water. I've got to exercise. I've got to read my book. I haven't finished everything hadn't been done pretty much. And it's that moment that I realized, oh my gosh, this is where this pain right here is what's going to make me next level. And I kept going. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I don't care what time I go to bed. I'm finishing this day. I'm completing all my tasks. And I did. I think I got to bed at like midnight or something crazy like that. I remember having my cold shower, sculling my water because I was like, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone here. Like, it was next level. But it was in that moment where I wanted to quit that I remembered, no, but this is where the greats are made. So here I am 3 days out and about to finish. I'm not failing. I'm finishing this goddamn phase. So that is a proper example of you just keep going even when it gets tough, even when it's easier to just throw in the towel. Because again, everyone that I'm surrounded by, and I have some really high level performers in my social circle. In my circle of influence, I've got some really successful people. I'm so grateful for them, and watching them and studying them and watching their behavior. I can't tell you any of them have ever given up on anything. Ever. I don't think. Ever. I can't think of a single person who's given up on anything. But I see a lot of people, I can name hundreds of people who have given up when it got hard. And so they're not the high performers, right? So if you want to be a high performer, you need to keep going when it's going to get tough. So I've got one more to share with you before I finish, but I just want to read this here. I tend to shy away from pushing myself forward when it gets scary. I'm determined now to keep going no matter what. Yay, Beth. That's awesome. I definitely do this shame and blame game. Time to hang out above the line. Yes, Jessica, I'm so proud of you. You know what? It is so fun hanging out at the 100% above the line, because where you take 100% responsibility, because you grow so much and you just have more resilience when things happen, and you're a problem solver and you have emotional intelligence, and those qualities and characteristics are what's going to get you through to the next level when the next hard thing happens. So I'm just so proud of you guys. Do you have any ideas on how to get my business awareness out there for locals? I'm going to create posters and cards and pin them in yoga studios and other spaces where women are. Any other ideas? That is a really good question, and maybe I can do a proper soul session on that, because I might be here for a while giving you some ideas on that. I want to stay on topic, but I love that you're asking that question. And that to me shows me that you're willing to figure out how to do it. So if I can give you just one quick tip, I'd probably have a look at others in your area who have very successful local businesses and study what they're doing. What are their marketing techniques? How are they getting clientele through their doors? Do that and start emulating some of those ideas. But I'll definitely do a soul session on that. That's a really good question. I've been thinking about it, and I actually wanted to start the 75 Hard tomorrow. Any advice for my first time? Yes, I have a blog. Go onto my website, go to the blog. I wrote a blog on this last month, so read it. It is freaking amazing. And I've got some podcast recommendations in there for you to listen to. Okay, last one, and then I'm going to wrap up. One of the reasons why you haven't been able to achieve your goals or achieve what you want to in life is because you have a fear of criticism and a failure to create plans and put them into action because of what other people are going to think, say, or do about you. Give me some love in the chat if this is you. You are petrified of the criticism, the judgment, what people are going to say about you, all of those good things. Now, I know how you feel because I have been there. In fact, in the very beginning when I started my business, my network marketing business, I kept it a secret from all of my friends for such a long time because I was so scared about what they would say. And I don't even know why. Like, it's so silly because I think what happened was I have seen people do network marketing in a really cringy way, and I didn't want to associate myself with the way that those people were doing it. So I thought, well, I know that I can be really good at this. I'm passionate about the product. I'm passionate about helping people. This business model is so smart. So I said yes. But then what was holding me back from actually creating momentum was, but what are my friends going to say? Oh my God, Are they going to be like, ew, Shani? Or are they going to be like, doing a pyramid scheme? Or what are they going to say? I don't know. And truthfully, I was able to grow my business without telling my friends, but it got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of keeping a pretty big secret from them, because I was starting to earn some money from my business, and I started to get really obsessed about it and passionate and excited. And I thought, okay, well, I care a lot about what they think, obviously, because I'm keeping this such a secret. But imagine if I stopped keeping it a secret. What would my business look like? And then I asked myself the question, well, who are the top 5 people in my life who I really, truthfully, really care about their opinion? And so I listed those people out. And actually, there were less than 5 people. When I really wrote it out, I was like, I actually really don't care what that person thinks about my life. The second thing I asked myself was, everyone on this list, I minimized it to 3, I should say. I'm going to reverse engineer this. Everyone who was on that list, I did write a really long list to begin with. Then I thought, do their opinions pay my bills, first of all? No. I said, no, they don't. The second thing I asked myself was, have they created, or do they have a life that I aspire to have? Or have they created something that I want to create? And most people on that list was a no. And I'm just being really honest with you guys. These are people that I deeply cared about, but I had this big vision for my life and this really big dream of creating absolute flexibility and freedom. And they didn't have that just yet. And so I thought, well, if they don't have what I want, why am I caring about what they think and say? And so I started to think about, well, who does have a life that I want, and who has created the success that I want? And I started looking around, and yeah, I was like, I care about what those people think, because they've created what I want. And so I started to change and edit that list of who I actually really cared about their opinion. Like, it doesn't mean I don't care about them. It just meant I didn't care about what they thought all of a sudden. And that really helped me, because all of a sudden my long list of people who I was like, I'm scared what they're going to say, turned into 3 people. My mum and dad, they're one person. My sister and my husband. Everybody else, I love them, but if their opinion of me changed for whatever reason, I go back to that question asking, well, does their opinion pay my bills? Have they created what I want? And I start asking myself all these questions, and then I think, well, I still love them, but that doesn't mean I have to listen to their opinion. The other thing that I asked myself was, if they're not going to support me with something that I'm really passionate about and really excited about, well then, are they really someone I need in my life? That was a big question. And when I started to realize that there were people in my circle back then, this was I'm talking 5 years ago, there were people in my circle back then who had something to say about what I was doing, and they had their knickers in a knot about it. I thought, well, maybe these people aren't my people anymore. And this is where we evolve. This is where Shani evolved to this new level of Shani, where she was like, okay, well, I only want people around me who really have my back. And I'll never forget this. I'm going to tell you a story, and I'll never forget this moment. I was out for dinner with some friends. There were about 8 of us, I think. And there were some drinks happening, so everyone started getting a little bit loose, and things were getting fun, and I was wrapping things up, so I was about to go home. And one of my friends came up to me, and he said specifically, hey, before you go, I have a question to ask you. And I was like, yeah, what's up? And he goes, I want to ask you a question about that little business that you have going on with the fruit and veggie capsules. And I was like, oh yeah, what's up? And he was like, do you actually think that people think they work? I'm just curious, because it's obviously a hoax. So I'm wondering how long you're going to build a business on lies. And I was just so taken aback. I was like, what? And so obviously I got really upset. I didn't show it on the exterior, but I was like, wait, hold on a minute. You think that I am like linking myself up with a brand and a company or a product that is fake? Is that what you're saying? And he was like, oh, it's a load of shit, right? It's a load of shit. Like, do you even take the product? And I was just so taken aback. I was just like, okay, so you're saying that I would work unethically and sell and share something that's not real. Is that what you're saying? And I remember him being like, yeah, it's like it's all a lie, right? It's all like, you don't really take them. And I was like, no, this is where I draw the line, because coming back to that self-worth thing that I was talking about at the beginning, I had enough self-worth at that point to go, you know what? I hold so like a really high integrity with myself, with my relationships, with the business that I do. I would never link myself up to something that's a hoax, or fake, or, you know, scamming people. And so I had to take a moment and think, if you think that I don't have integrity and I would do something like that, then this friendship is not a real friendship, and I'm just going to phase this friendship out of my life, because I just need people around me who are cheering me on, who have got my back. And so that was a really pivotal moment for me, because that was probably one of the first times that I disconnected myself from someone, because their opinion was not going to help me evolve and keep going. And I had such big dreams for my life, and I still do. But back then, this was like 5 years ago, back then I had this vision of what my life would look like, which I have today. But back then, I needed to make sure my people in my social circle and in my circle of influence had my freaking back, had to have my back. They had to be sitting at that round table with me, who would help me elevate, because I couldn't have people sitting at that table who didn't agree. So that was one of my things where I thought, right, well, this is a pivotal moment. This is where I've got to either care what people think and maybe like go back in my little hermit hole and not tell anyone what I'm doing, or I make a decision that I'm not going to let the opinions of others dictate my actions. So I wanted to leave it there with you guys today, because I want you to think about what I shared today, and maybe there's some reflection time needed after this soul session today, where you need to ask yourself some really good questions, like, who do I want in my social circle? Who do I need to not remove, as in like, I'm never seeing you again? Who can you still love but keep at arm's length, maybe? Or maybe who do you need to remove, who's toxic? Who is in your circle who's not supporting what you're doing right now and not seeing your vision and not cheering you on, that you need to just and place outside the circle? Because it's so important for you to be surrounded by people who are successful, high performers, self-motivated, and have got your back, so that you can become the person that you need to become. So Sol has asked, what do you recommend to do to increase your self-worth, Shan? Oh my gosh, I have a blog on this as well. Go to my website and search self-worth. It'll come up. I also have a YouTube video on it. Make sure you watch that. But one of the things that you can do is, I want you to think about someone who you just love, and you are just like, oh my gosh, they're just like an amazing person. I'm going to make someone up, Beyonce. Okay, I want you to write down a list of 50 reasons why you love Beyonce, or whoever that person is for you. And list all her characteristics and traits. She's creative, she's beautiful, she's a great dancer, she is a freaking boss, she is an amazing mother, she's a great performer, she's this, she's that. Like, I want you to write out all the things that you love about her, and then to increase your self-worth every night, I want you to sit that little piece of paper or that journal by your bedside, and before you go to sleep every night for the next, if you've got 50 things about Beyonce or whoever, let's just say over the next 10 nights, I want you to pick 5 of her characteristics and traits that you love about her, And I need you to think about a time that you have been that trait. So if you've written down she's creative, then I want you to not only think about a time that you've been created, but I want you to write next to that, like next to the word creative, I was creative when. So it might be, I was creative last week when I was putting together some new assets, social media assets for my social media. Boom, all of a sudden, you are like Beyonce. The next one, she is an amazing public speaker. Let's just say. And if you're like, I'm not an amazing public speaker, I want you to think about a time and a place that you have communicated with someone in a way that's graceful or whatever it is that you see in her. So it may not be like public speaking, but it's the core root of what she's doing there that you have to find a time in your life. So what's going to happen is in 10 days, if you do 5 a night, in 10 days, all of a sudden you're going to have 50 characteristics just like Beyonce. And all of a sudden, the person who's on the pedestal is now equal to you. And that is how one of the reasons that I love to raise my self-worth. Okay, guys, I hope you loved today's soul session. Let me know what you took away from this. I'd love to know. And also make sure you share this with someone who you know needs to hear it. I am here every single Monday, same time. Today I had to be an hour later, but every single time, every Monday, I come here and hang out with you guys. Let me know what you want me to cover in any future soul sessions. I just want this to be something that you can listen to while you're exercising or washing the dishes or cooking or whatever it is, driving, commuting to work, just to help you start your week off strong. So I love you. Thanks for being here with me. I'll see you guys next week, okay? Bye.